So it's like you can never value enough just staying in the fight. It doesn't matter what someone else is capable of if it all comes down to who makes it to the finish line. It's keeping your head in the game.
Welcome to the F&G podcast, where the Green Beret trains an F&G with
Buck Rogers, the Green Beret.
And KDH, I am the F&G. All right, Buck, got a lot of things going on in this world. And,
Yes.
hey, by the way, I've been loving the videos you're doing. So on the F&G Academy and getting guys ready for, selection.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, I know you have a huge heart for, helping these guys get prepared. And you're doing some things there. You've talked about rucking, really getting prepared for that. And I mean, giving some super practical tips as well. So,
yeah. So I think a lot of the advice that people give on selection is kind of, well, to be honest, a lot of it comes from candidates that failed.
okay.
And so that's not very beneficial to them, right? Like, hey, this is what you should do for selection. I failed. So,
Okay.
there's not a lot of people, because not a lot of Green Berets are like, hey, I'm going to, talk on YouTube about,
Yeah.
I had a buddy hit me up. He's Jerry's 8 deployments, longtime Green Beret. He was a Charlie cadre. The dude's a wealth of knowledge. And I was like, hey, send me some stuff. He's like, I want to send you some stuff. I was like, well, just record yourself and I'll throw it on there.
Yeah.
He's like, hell no, I'm not talking on the camera, bro.
Sure.
So, it's an opportunity for someone who's been there to help these guys out instead of just, because I remember being myself, just scouring the internet for any kind of tip, because you want so bad to succeed, and but you really need to be careful about where you get your advice from.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for them to get it from a prior Green Beret, and it feels good to help them out.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask, I know you have some question you want to ask me about
Yes.
goal setting. We'll get to that in just a minute, but I want to ask you about like getting prepared, not just physically, there's no doubt you got to get ready physically for selection. But how do you get prepared mentally, emotionally, even relationally? And what I mean by this, and be a little more specific, is like getting your house in order. Like getting your shit in order.
Absolutely.
And, I know we're going to talk a little bit on the Badass Dad podcast, but, maybe even financially getting your stuff in order.
Yeah.
So you can be focused, because the last thing you want to be thinking about is baby mama drama or financial stuff, when you're out there in selection. So talk to us a little bit about just getting prepared on that side.
Yeah. So, I got super lucky, and to be honest, my wife is probably a big reason for my success, is because when I focus on things, I know she's got it handled. I know that we're good. I don't worry about her. We're not fighting. She's not, upset that I'm gone. And that support from her was, it set me right. I am 100% there. I don't have anything else in the back of my head. And I did watch a lot of guys struggle with, things going on at home. And when you add a lot of physical and emotional pain and torment on top of those things, man, it could break a guy down fast.
Absolutely.
So I couldn't agree more. I mean, you pretty much phrased it up already. It's like you have to get things in order, and you have to know that, when you're gone, because those cadre are going to expect every ounce of focus and energy that you have. And if your mind's back at home, they're going to pick up on that quick.
I have a weak comparison to this, but when I was training for the Ironman,
that's not a weak comparison.
15 years ago. Well, I mean, I'm not preparing to go to battle or to war or anything, but Gretchen and I had a conversation just going, hey, this is a 1-year commitment that I'm making to train for this thing. And these are the sacrifices, and it's an incredibly selfish time.
Oh yeah.
And I was very fortunate. I had a guy that coached me through the process, and he said, you need to understand, Kevin, of all the things you're going to be doing this for, you're doing this for yourself first, and to get through this. And that's okay.
Right.
And to understand, when someone's going to go through selection, that there's a bit that's selfish. You're not going to be as home as much, or there's going to be some things you're going to miss, but it's no different in that, or if you're going to get your master's degree or going to college or, starting a business. There's going to be a season of sacrifice.
Absolutely. And then when you come home and you have succeeded in the things that you want, you're a different man. So then your wife is getting the best version of you, because you come home and you're like, thank you. I crushed it. I feel so good. What do you want to do? What's all, instead, if you ignored your passions, you'd just be all bitter and annoyed, and, and your time at home, she'd be like, just go away,
Yeah.
So if you take for you, I mean, you get to give back later because you're going to be in a better mindset.
That's great. And I think it's going to be a great segue for us to talk a little bit about goal setting. So I know you had some things on your mind that you want to talk about. So, and I think this is critically important, you know, for guys that are going to go through selection or they're going to start a business or whatever, that they have some time to go through some goal setting and really have some strategy, not just saying, hey, I'd like to do this. You know, I mean, how many people say, hey, I'd like to go through selection. I'd like to be a Green Beret.
Right.
But then they go ring the bell.
Right.
So,
and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about and get your perspective on it, because what you've done, you know, I was talking to Devin about entrepreneurship, and he's like, it's scary, dude. And I told him, I was like, you're damn right it's scary. It's like, my kind of thinking is like, it's like jumping in the ocean and there you have nothing in sight, but you have to get to an island. Like at some point you have to stop sitting there worrying about it and start swimming.
Yeah.
Or you're never going to get anywhere. So goal setting, in my opinion, is like the key to breaking it down and moving ahead. And, you know, you got to keep moving forward. So that's why I'd like your perspective on, so you've been an entrepreneur for a long, long time. You know, what do you do that keeps you focused and keeps you motivated? Because we were talking earlier, you said you haven't had a paycheck, like a salary paycheck since 95.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like most people would lose their shit if they knew that their plan, their, you know, paycheck that's going to drop first and the 15th wasn't going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so what was that like?
Well, it was definitely a transition for me. Because, well, I mean, I say that, you know, I mean, even as a kid, I always did things. I mowed lawns, did this, I actually started my own basketball tournament that I ran. I made money from when I was in college. And even when I was teaching and coaching, you know, I had the great opportunity that I did, you know, things outside of teaching and coaching to make more money, whether it was writing articles for a local, you know, newspaper or, you know, personal training or just out there hustling. So I always had that, you know, that side business or something that was making money. But, you know, I think I was so fortunate that, you know, 20 years ago, you know, I had a couple people that entered my life that really taught me really some specifics on goal setting and how to get after it. And so I'm just going to start with just giving the 5 steps that I learned of goal setting. And I could share so many funny stories because one of the ladies, Kathy Marchesani, who has been an incredible mentor for my wife and I for years, both her and her husband, Mark, for years and years. I was actually getting ready to speak at an event, and literally my introduction is like about to start. Someone else about to introduce me to go up, and Kathy pulls me over the side and she goes, "Hey, Kevin, what are the 5 steps of goal setting?" I'm like, Kathy, I'm getting ready to talk, man. I'm not even thinking about this, you know? But it was so important to learn these and then to apply them. So I'm gonna give them to you. So the first step, so the 5 steps of goal setting. The first one it's called CCMP. So clear, concise, mental picture.
Okay.
Like, what is it that you're trying to do? Okay. And you know, I'm going back, and she's from New Jersey. And so she said, you know, she always told me this: if you can't seize it, you can't seize it, you know? And so you've got to be able to see in your mind, what is it you're building? You know, if we're building, you know, this academy and we're wanting to see people go through selection, you know, if we're wanting to build, you know, stronger fathers, if we're wanting to, you know, build a real estate empire, whatever it is, we've got to have a clear, concise mental picture of what it is that we're going after. And that takes some time. And, you know, I think early on, when people from an entrepreneurial standpoint or even selection standpoint, if they don't have a clear picture, what they can do is they can start looking for examples of people that have gone through it. And they go, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like to successfully go through selection. This is what it looks like to successfully go through building a business. This is what it looks like successfully to go through, you know, building a podcast or, you know, or whatever it may be. So having that, you know, the next thing, as you're setting the goals there, you need to make sure that it is stretchingly realistic. And, you know, I used to always do this training, and I would, you know, I would reach up, like, you know, I put my hand up as high as I could, like I was trying to reach the ceiling and couldn't quite get there. But if I just stretch like a little bit more, it'd be there. And the reason this is important is that if the goals are too big, then they're not really going to motivate us.
You know, that's funny because that's something I talked about on the YouTube today was, you know, because it was advice for the Q course. It's like your whole time in the Q course cannot be the Green Beret. That's 2 years minimum. if you recycle, you could, I mean, some guys takes 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about the green beret every day, you're going to be like, man, screw that beret. I'll just go get
Right.
So
I'm gonna go raspberry beret.
Yeah, I'll go raspberry. I'll go to airborne unit. Forget it.
Yeah.
So I like that. Like you have to have shorter goals that get you to that bigger goal, so you can feel like you're accomplishing something. Because we need consistent reinforcement from accomplishing those goals.
Well, like when you were running your ultras. Okay, you didn't just go out and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to run 100 miles today."
Oh, hell no.
Okay, you started off smaller, and you said, "Okay, hey, let me get to where I can run a 10K, or now I can run a half marathon. Now all of a sudden I can run a marathon." I mean, okay, right? Goggins did it. Maybe I can do it. But it's got to be something that stretches you. If the goal is too small, then it doesn't motivate you either, because then all of a sudden I'll get to that. I'll get to that someday. It doesn't matter if I do it today. But so it's got to be something that is stretchingly realistic, something that's like at the fingertips for you.
That's a good point.
So the third thing in it is then, once you have your clear, concise mental picture, is stretchingly realistic. Then you got to set a date. Now the great part with selection, there's a date.
Date set.
You know when it's going to be. Okay. So you have the date in mind, and you can continue to visualize that. I'm sure you did things where you'd write things on your mirror, or you had pictures of the green beret, or you would cut out articles and you would see it.
Do that.
Yeah,
yeah. I had a workout book, and I cut out a special forces tab, and I taped it to the inside of the workout book, and then I wrote underneath it caster tab. And that was kind of, our thing is when I first got in the military, is like caster tab. It's like you will break or you will get it. And that's the mindset. It's caster tab. You're getting one or the other. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? When I was training for the Ironman, okay, I was great. I actually got a DVD, and it was given to me. It was called The Finishing Experience. And so I was watching it, and I remember over and over watching the video, watching people swim, watching the people bike, watching people run. And then at the very end, Mike, it used to, and I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but Mike Riley, he was the voice of Iron Man. And he would, say the person's name, their number, where they're from. And then as they're crossing every single finisher. And he would say, and you are an Iron Man.
That's so awesome.
And so I remember for a year, I would watch this, and I would just go, and I didn't know what my number would be, but it was, it was like, so number 1054 from Parker, Colorado, Kevin Harper, you are an Iron Man.
That's so badass.
Dude, like I can feel it right now. I'm like, I feel it. Cool. It's been 14 years ago, but that right there, just breaking into those pieces. And making it stretchingly realistic, having the day. The next thing is breaking it into pieces. So that's where you start breaking it down. What's it going to be? You know what? Dude, I've never even put a backpack on. How am I going to ruck? I need to go watch the video. How do I pack my ruck so that I don't get chafed?
Right.
Where do I put things in the right spot? Now, all of a sudden, I can't ruck for 6 hours straight.
Right.
Where do I start? And I think that's where the videos that you've done so far are going to help so many people out, just breaking that into pieces. So talk to us a little bit about how you've done that in the past, where you broke things down into pieces to be able to achieve the goal.
Well, and you mentioned the huge part of that is visualization. So I try to do the same thing. And honestly, how many times did you hear him saying your name, saying that you're Iron Man before it happened? I mean, and I did the same thing with every goal. And everything I do, it has to be broken down as like, what am I going to get done today? What am I going to get done this week? And what is my end goal? And is everything I'm doing working towards that? And then honestly, especially when you jump out on your own and you're not doing the 9 to 5 anymore, and you could just do whatever you want. I have a friend that's in the same boat, and his whatever he wants is mostly just chilling. And so that's when I kind of looked at it, I was like, well, maybe what I'm doing is different. Maybe it's not because I have time that I am attacking like this. Like there's a fire burning, and I goal out my day every single day. Every night I'm thinking, what am I going to do tomorrow? What is my task list, and how am I going to knock that out? In what order am I going to knock that out? Because I know that as soon as I wake up, like this morning, I'm waking up, 6 in the morning. From 6, it took me about an hour and a half to finish my essay for my master's degree, and then, submit that. Boom, that's done. Okay, now I got to get everyone breakfast. The wife's pregnant, so I'm, so I got to have her all taken care of because she'll get nauseous, if she doesn't have breakfast. cool. Hook up breakfast. All right, babe, going to the gym. Hit the gym, hit the YouTube. Now we're doing the podcast.
Yeah.
Like we got to hustle, right? But we only have so much energy to spend in the day. So none of this could be procrastinated till later because, come 5 o'clock in the afternoon, just like if I had a 9 to 5, I've been crushing it and I'm cracking that beer and I'm enjoying myself,
Absolutely.
So goal setting it's absolutely essential.
Well, and it's become almost a cliche to talk about. People talk about, goal setting, but they don't really get down to what it really is. So to recap this, and I'll give the fifth one in just a second, but number one, a CCMP, a clear, concise mental picture. You need to make sure, number two, that it is stretchingly realistic. Number three, you got to set a date. Someday is not a game plan.
No, good point.
And number four, you got to break it into pieces. So breaking it down. And then number five, repetition.
That's fantastic.
It is your ability to endure the repetition enthusiastically that'll cause you to be successful. And I bet you couldn't even count the number of rucks that you did, miles that you ran, push-ups, pull-ups, all those things that you did either in preparation or through selection. But it is just the repetition, staying on it.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Those are some great. See, that's why we got to ask you questions more often. You got some great stuff, man. I mean, that 5 that's killer. And like, I've never heard that list. And I do most of those things.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear them broken down because then it's like, now you're not just following a plan, you're following a game plan that's like proven success, and I love the visualization part because if you can't see where you want to go, then why are you going to work hard to get there?
Exactly.
If you're going on vacation to a place that you've never been, then you're not going to be excited to go.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's a beach. You don't know if it's the mountains. You don't know if you even like it.
Well, that's why advertising works so well. Advertising works so well because, let's say you want to go to Hawaii and they start sending you these brochures on Hawaii or something like that, or Disney World, want to take your kids. One of the best/worst things I ever did was, I got a brochure about Disney World and then I shared it with my kids and, there wasn't a day that went by. They went, Daddy, when are we going? Daddy, when are we going? Daddy, when are we going? When's the trip? And if you set some goals and then reward yourself on the backside with it. And we could have talked about a lot of different things, the importance of rewarding yourself as you're making progress. We could have talked about, positive accountability there as well. All those things are incredibly important, but I believe the greatest motivation that we'll ever have is that intrinsic motivation that comes, and how you build those muscles is by doing an advertising campaign on yourself. Seeing yourself wearing that green beret.
Yeah.
Like, cause I've seen some of the pictures of you, back in the day and going, man, the pride that you felt in that moment.
Oh yeah.
With your brothers.
That's insane. When I put that thing on for the first time, like I was invincible, man. I talk about that too. I was like, I prepped that beret, like shaved it and shaped it to my head for 3 months before I was allowed to wear it. So when they gave it to me, it was giving me, that piece of cloth meant everything to me. So absolutely. And I forgot, you just said another thing that was hugely impactful that I tried to bring up. It's rewarding yourself.
Rewarding, yep.
So I was talking about that today is like, you have to be excited about your victories. But what I like about the way that you articulate and have all this knowledge in steps, it's one thing to know subconsciously because you've done a system and it's worked and you've pulled out the things that are worked and you can understand, roughly why it's worked. But it's another thing when you could say, strictly, this is the rule and this is why it works and this is how. And that's one thing that you're able to do a lot. And I really appreciate that because it adds a lot of structure to things that you think are just kind of happening. And then it gives you that control, right? Because you're like, well, this isn't just happening. I'm following a set of guidelines that are proven to work and they really work for me. And I know it, so then I could replicate it. So
yeah, I'm going to give you one last little nugget here. In all these, I wish I could say that I do these perfectly and I have always, followed through on everything. And probably more that I can share is from me failing than anything else. But the one is this: reward yourself on the progress, not perfection. Progress over perfection is incredibly important. Or give me, it's once again a silly example, but I'm coaching my son's 8th grade football team, and we just had our last regular season game. Okay, and we finished the regular season 5-1, and so we won yesterday. And to be honest, I was still. I was going to say pissed off. That's not the right word, but I was still dissatisfied. There you go. I was still dissatisfied, even with the victory. And, Gretchen, my wife, said something to me. She goes, you know what? She didn't use these exact words, but this is what she was saying. She was like, an ugly victory is better than a pretty loss.
That's true. That's a good point.
She's
got some wisdom in it.
She does. And you know what? Maybe when you're training, your ruck doesn't go exactly the way you wanted it to. Your ability to deal with adversity, your ability to not give up, not to tap out, your ability to see another day. Those are all critically important, because the guys that don't make it through selection are the guys that, okay, maybe they quit, they got injured, but you kept going. You stayed in the fight.
Yeah.
Even when you didn't want to.
Yeah. And a lot of us, like, for example, in my selection class, the fastest runner, because, you really get judged on your running. It's hard to judge people in selection environments on things other than running. And that's why when I give advice, I'm like, run, run,
Yeah.
Don't stop running, run fast. Because it's when you guys all start in a line and they say go, it's easy to see who's been running a lot and who really wants it. And in selection, the fastest runner quit. And we were all looking at him like, man, this guy's a stud.
He's gonna cakewalk through.
He's gonna cake this thing, and he's gonna destroy it, and he's gonna make us all look bad. So we all kind of just started ignoring him, not like to his face here, but we just started ignoring his success because he was so fast and he was so talented that we're like, if we focus on him, we're just gonna feel so inadequate.
Yeah.
So and then he quit. So it's like you can never value enough just staying in the fight. It doesn't matter what someone else is capable of. If it all comes down to who makes it to the finish line, keeping your head in the game.
Stay in the game.
The best of the best, probably some of the best people in the world have just not wanted it anymore and gave up on it. And then the guy in the back of the pack just keeps driving forward, and now all of a sudden he's the man, and he's the one that saw the finish line. So you can't judge yourself.
Well, and I'll tell you, one of the ways that you do that is by really getting good at goal setting. That when you want to tap out, you're reminded of your goals.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That when you're frustrated and you're laying in your bunk, and then you look up and you see that picture of that beret, and you're like, dude,
got to get it.
One more day, one more day, one more round, one more step, one more mile.
Absolutely.
Love it. Well, dude, hey guys, thank you so much. We are super excited about where the F&G podcast is going and the F&G Academy. Check it out on the YouTubes.
All the tubes.
All right. And we are fired up to be able to provide value for you guys, whether in selection or in life. Man, some of you you want to train like a Green Beret. You want to think like a Green Beret. And this is the way for you to do it. So F&G podcast is out for today.
See ya.